All right, guys, back here again. We're going to finish up the next part of our talk here today. We went over the big four of mental toughness, the big four skills, and the last one of those was goal setting. So now we're going to spend a little bit more time on the goal setting process. Again, I've tried to simplify it so that, hopefully, again, what I'm trying to really focus on here is helping you to come up with things that you can take action on. So we can go into this big, deep discussion on goals and all of that. But by the end of the day, if you don't actually come away with goals, it's really, in my opinion, not beneficial. So try to keep it pretty simple today, give you some things to think about, and then give you some action steps to actually get some goals written down. So first piece of that is starting with, the way I approach it is starting with identifying your purpose. So sometimes we might refer to this as your why. I refer to that quite a bit, your big why. And then in a way that, and some people have trouble with this. I understand that. So you maybe you don't know what like your purpose or your why is. So that goes back again to the last thing we were talking about with, doing some contemplation, whether it's meditation or your breath work, that sort of thing, to really think about, things a little bit more. Take time to contemplate and really kind of search, so to speak. So one exercise that you can actually utilize to kind of help with this it doesn't sound very positive, but it's called a eulogy exercise. So if you think about it, and this also ties into a little bit, even like if you think Stephen Covey's like, start with the end in mind. That's really what you're doing. You're starting kind of at the end of your life, and then how would that look? So, the way the eulogy exercise works is you write a eulogy. What would people say about you at the end of your life? And I think if I remember correctly, one of the stories I heard was really powerful was Alfred Nobel, I believe that's the Nobel Peace Prize. His brother, I think it was his brother, passed away. The eulogy, not the eulogy, but in the paper was written about him, not his brother, and I think he was the inventor of I want to say dynamite or something like that. So I may have that wrong, but basically the point was he realized that that's how he's going to be remembered, and that really changed the direction of his life. And now, of course, you know that it's the Nobel Peace Prize, which is totally different. So that whole process kind of changed the direction of his life. So if you do this, you can kind of look at, okay, one, if I were to have it written right now, what would that look like? And maybe it's not what I want, so to speak. It's not how I like to be remembered. So, but you can create, okay, what would I want that to be like? What would I want that to be like? And so that's really what the eulogy exercise is all about. It's just one way of trying to help you identify what your why, what your purpose is. It's my belief, is that we all have a purpose. We're all here for a reason. And I like to believe, my way of believing is that we're all here to make a difference and hopefully to contribute and make the world a better place. So, but how you go about doing that is an individual thing. But it is my belief that we all do have a purpose. So taking some time to really look at that big picture part first, and then kind of tying into that, the second piece might be looking at, okay, a vision of what that's going to look like. So Mark refers to it in his program as the future self-visualization. This is something you can start to incorporate into like a morning ritual with your box breathing. You start to kind of visualize, what do I want things to look like? And see yourself that way. So, maybe you're already the way you want to be. Maybe you already are on the path to, how you want your eulogy written, or maybe you're already on that path. Maybe not, and so you maybe see some gaps between where you are and where you would like to be. And so this is just an opportunity to kind of start to create that vision around that. And the next piece of that is I refer to as like identifying your premise. So when you look at these, we'll get into the goal setting more specific in a second, but when you look at this, this is very, very powerful, I think, because you may see this vision, okay, of what you want to be, but then when you start looking at it, it may seem like not possible, for instance. Like, I had this future self that I want to create, but how am I going to do that? And then, so one of the things, again, go back and reflect is looking at how do you actually see the world? How do you actually see yourself? And the boo is, again, something I took from Mark, but it's called background of obviousness. So if you really take time to look at what your belief systems are, or another way of thinking about what your mental models are, you can start to look at that. And really, the way I recommend looking at it is you just take some time to contemplate those things around any area that you're working on. And so let's use for us here at Alliance, the way I like to break it down is most of what we work on in the gym is going to be based on what I refer to as energy. It's all things to help you create energy for your life, and then hopefully that energy is going to be applied to other areas, whatever your purpose might be. Your purpose might not, your main purpose, your one thing may not be to be the best athlete or the best jiu-jitsu player or whatever, okay, in the gym, okay. But if it gives you energy and helps you become more healthy and fit, so that you can go apply that energy to other things that you may even have a greater passion for, then we're winning. That's our goal. Okay. So, but when you look at those areas, you can kind of look and look at the beliefs you have. Some you may find are empowering. So I'll use an example for me. So one of the things I learned years ago, I remember we used to have T-shirts that we got if we made so many workouts in the summer for football, and it was hard work pays off. So that would be a belief system that I have. So if I work hard, it pays off. And I was challenging on that. But kind of going through this exercise once, I was challenging on this, and the person said, she said, have you ever thought about maybe smart work pays off? I was like, huh. At the time, I was not really receptive to that too much because I thought hard work pays off has worked pretty well for me. And I really didn't understand I understood what she was saying, but I didn't really buy into it. I buy into it more now because it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart. So that to me is just an example of how that changes, okay, by making that evaluation. Hard work had worked for me, but smart work works better. And so if I change that belief system, it's going to change what my actions are related to what I'm trying to achieve, if that makes sense. So that's just a very simple example. There are many more, but when you look at them, so first is take a look at what those belief systems are, what those mental models are, reflect on that, and then are they empowering me or are they disempowering me, okay? If they're empowering me, okay, I would say keep those. Okay? If they're not empowering me, they're disempowering me, take a deeper look and see, are they actually true or not? We did our first podcast yesterday, and Chris and I talked about this. You can look at the world as being, like the universe being as benevolent, or it's, like you can look at people are good in general, or people are bad in general. Okay? I would say that it's better off, it's going to be more empowering to think of people in general as being good versus being bad. If you live if you can choose one of those two, because really, can we prove either one? Not really. So it's our experiences may lead us to believe one way or the other, but if you choose the one that's negative, it's probably not going to be you're not going to have probably as a fulfilled life versus if you choose the positive. So the mental models are very important. So that's just taking a look at that and identifying those things, the ones you can keep, the ones you can get rid of that are not empowering you, and take a look at that. Okay. So that's really going to be dialed in from there. Okay. Then speaking of smart, now just taking those areas. So for example, you can have goals in many, many areas, but I recommend, again, keeping it simple. For us, when we talk about the energy, we've kind of broken it down into 5 things, right? So there's a mental aspect, which we're kind of working on now. There's a actual physical training aspect. There's nutrition, there's sleep, recovery, and then there's a spiritual component, which also ties a little bit into this as well. So if you pick those areas and then start to look at this from that perspective, and then now from there, you can start to create some goals around that, okay? So the recommended process we say for that is just use the SMART concept here. So The S of SMART is just specific. So try to make that goal specific. Again, we've been working on this for many years, and last year I did a program, Optimized Coach, and one of the guys I was working with, he coaches. He has several different businesses and coaches people, even works with corporations. And I was kind of interested. I think he worked with some, I won't say the name of them, but bigger companies. And he was saying even at a higher management level, they don't know how to set goals. So I thought it was pretty interesting. So and I've seen that even here with some people is we'll say, okay, have some goals, and I'll see it in the right. They'll even go to the part of writing them down, but they're not even specific. Like they may say, I want to lose weight. Let's use that example. That's not specific. What does that mean? Does that mean a pound, or does that mean 50 pounds? It's a big difference, okay? So the more specific you can get, the better, okay? Trying to narrow that down. Again, measurable. Is it something you can measure? Okay, so the better, the more you can, and we say this, if you want to manage something, you want to be able to measure it, okay? So again, I'll use the example, we've been talking about that a lot this year. If someone says, I want to get stronger, okay, what does that mean? How much stronger? So you can do 1 push-up, do you want to do 2 push-ups? Or do you want to do 50 push-ups or whatever? So it's, if you're never measuring that, then you don't know if you're making progress or not. So have something you can measure, okay? Achievable. I think this is a big part, and we'll kind of tie this back down here a little bit too. You don't want to if you make the goal something you don't, get back to the premise again, that you don't believe you can achieve, you won't be very highly motivated to actually even try. So I kind of tie this into what we call the motivation equation, which is basically, if you look at motivation on one side of the equation, numerator on top is going to be your value times your expectancy. So that kind of ties these together, right? It's your thing about your purpose is going to give you value. So if it's not something you identify or connect to your purpose, you may not really value it that much. And then your ability to achieve it is really going to be your expectancy. So if you don't really believe your expectancy that you can do it, then your expectancy is not going to be very high. So if either one of those is not very high, then that top number is going to be low, right? But even if your top number is high, okay, the bottom is going to be impulsivity times delay. So if you're distracted, impulsivity, that you don't stay focused on your goal, you're also not going to be very motivated. And if you delay, so in other words, I've got this goal I'm going to do, but I'll start next week. And you keep delaying it and delaying it and delaying it, okay, you're going to start to lose motivation. So that's, again, kind of part of what we're trying to tie into here today, too, is take action. It doesn't have to be even a huge action. Just take some action so you're not delaying it, okay, and you're getting started. Once you get started, then you can build momentum and continue to stay motivated. Is it relevant? Again, tying back to your purpose and your vision. Taking this again from Mark, it refers to as the 3 Ps. So does it relate to what your passion, your purpose, and your principles are? So if you can make that connection, that becomes relevant. It's a part of your goal setting process. And then time bound. Having a time frame that you want to achieve that goal in is very important. Again, if you put it open-ended, I'll use myself as an example. I talked about, for 2 years, I've talked about doing a podcast, okay, and I didn't put a time frame on it. So fortunately, I had Chris kind of give me a little nudge during this time, and it worked out well, so we got that started. So very important to have a time. I see it all the time with, we do challenges, and especially if we have a winner of the challenge, we always have people lose weight. And then sometimes, unfortunately, if that challenge is over, they go right back to what they were doing. But it's just because they're not making that connection all the time. But at least having that time frame, it gets you to focus a little bit more, okay? And then lastly, the P it's like SMART P, so it's positive state. So you want to always have the goal stated in a positive way. You don't want to, it kind of goes back to the old analogy if I say, don't think of a pink elephant, well, first thing that comes to mind is a pink elephant. So you want to state it positively, not negatively, okay? So think about that. And then the last piece we're going to go over today is just kind of doing a reevaluation of your goals that you have. So it kind of goes back, is this a good goal for me? Does it fit? Does it fit with really what I'm trying to do in terms of my purpose and my passion and my principles? And one way to look at that is it's called the WOOP process. So WOOP. So first, if you look at the goal in general, that's kind of like my wish. Like, what is it? That can be like the vision and so forth. And then O is the outcome or benefits. So what will that do for me? How does that tie into my like passion, purpose, and principles? What benefit I'm going to get from it? And then the next piece is huge here. It kind of ties a little bit to maybe into the achievable aspect of it. But what are the potential obstacles that could get in the way? Because if we're not prepared for that, then sometimes we lose motivation once we hit those obstacles. So there's been studies shown, like people who, let's use weight loss as an example. People who like start a diet and they expect everything to go smooth. As soon as they hit the first roadblock, they're thrown off, okay? The people that say, man, okay, I'm committed to doing this, but it's going to be hard. I'm probably going to run into some roadblocks. It's not going to be just lose weight every single week, until I get to my goal. I may have some setbacks here and there. They do better because they're expecting those obstacles, and then part of that is now I look at the plan. I need a plan, and then how will I? If I hit those obstacles, how will I deal with it? If you're someone's like, use the idea of like weight loss again. If you're someone that travels a lot and you don't prepare and realize that, okay, when I travel, it may be more challenging to eat healthy than when I'm at home and I've got more control of my environment, and you're probably not going to be as successful. So the WHOOP is a good thing to kind of go back once you've kind of done the goal setting process, is go back and, like I say, WHOOP it, like look at those things and see if I can, make some adjustments here as well. So this is kind of, again, try to keep it simple today, the process, and then we also going to be doing some, I think a Zoom call where you can, we can actually work with you on this either in person once things get back to normal, or we can do it virtually to kind of help you walk through this process. Or say you've got all this stuff done, but the plan is what you're struggling with. Like, okay, I know what I want to get done, but how do I most effectively accomplish that? That's where we come into as coaches to help you, again, not just give you something, but work together with you to come up with a plan of action to help you do what we're talking about today, just taking action and taking a step forward. So hopefully that was helpful for you today, and look forward to doing more of these in the future.